Well, hello everyone, and welcome to Cinema Chat, my weekly movie podcast. And today's episode, we will be discussing May new releases of the year 2023. Now, I did one of these for April where I just discussed all the new releases I saw within the month of April, and I think I had about 10 or so movies in April. I can't remember, but April there was a ton of movies. Um, in May, there wasn't that many. I actually only saw 8 new releases in the month of May, which is still a lot, but nowhere near as much as I was hoping. However, June is looking like it's going to have a lot of new releases. I mean, you got the new Indiana Jones coming out, you got Transformers, you got Spider Man Into the Spider Verse, The Boogeyman. You got a lot of cool stuff. We are in the summer movie season. So, yes, June is looking like there's going to be a lot of cool new releases. Hopefully, I can get to more than 8. I am currently sitting at 52 new releases this year, so I'm going at a pace at about 10 movies a month. And my goal is to hit 100 movies by the end of October because that is when the Five Nights at Freddy's movie comes out, and I want to see if I can time it. I want to try and make that my 100th new release of the year. I'm going to see. I think it is possible. So hopefully I can do it. Hopefully I can do it because that is like my most anticipated movie of the year. I have been dying and waiting for that movie for ages. I could do like a whole podcast episode on that, and I probably will when we get closer to October. But yes. Anyways, let's get back on track here and talk about May movies. And once again, kind of what I was saying in my April movies, 2023 is just kind of an okay year for movies so far. There hasn't been a whole lot of movies that have just blown me away that I have loved. It's just been a lot of stuff I've thought is okay. Now, two of the movies in this month, though, however, are in my top 5 movies of the year. But, like I just said, because it's been a kind of rough year for movies, that's not that hard of a feat. So, yeah. Just like April's one, these aren't in any particular order, or at least not like a ranking order. This is just the order that I saw them in. So, let's kick this baby off with Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Now, I do have a full review for this movie on my channel if you want to check it out, but this is my second favorite movie of the year, just behind John Wick Chapter 4, which is going to be a pretty tough one to beat, but yeah. Guardians Volume 3. Now, I adore the MCU. That is my favorite franchise of all time. I don't foresee another franchise ever being better than that. So, I adore the MCU, right? I have in the room I am sitting in, I have like an entire shelf dedicated to Marvel props, Funko Pops. Not even one shelf. I have numerous shelves now that I'm looking around more. I got so many replicas, all that stuff. I go out and buy every single Marvel movie the day it comes out on 4K or Steelbook if the design is cool. Like I live and breathe the MCU, right? It's just my favorite franchise of all time. However, ever since Endgame came out, I've felt like the MCU has struggled quite a bit to feel like it has a sense of direction and just get that cohesiveness that the old MCU used to have, like everything pre-Endgame. And so, while there certainly were projects I enjoyed and liked in Phase 4, as a whole, Phase 4 was pretty underwhelming. And it's just like, guys, like, what are we doing right now? Like, please, can we get back on track to like the MCU glory days, right? And so the past few projects haven't really been all that awesome. Like Thor Love and Thunder is like the first MCU movie I watched, and I'm just like, I don't think I like that. Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania I thought was fine, but it I wanted it to be a lot better than it was. And so going into Guardians 3, I didn't really know what to expect because I really love that first Guardians of the Galaxy. The second one I think's just fine. And then like with the whole drama with James Gunn stuff, I was like, I don't know. I really don't know about this one. I just, with how Phase 4 went, don't know. But this movie is awesome. I loved this movie. It was the perfect conclusion to this Guardians of the Galaxy trilogy. This is clearly, to me, the best MCU movie since Avengers Endgame. And I really, really hope that we can just get back to that with the MCU. I think they just need to pump the brakes a little bit, stop putting out so much, and just take their time at crafting really good movies like Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 was. As for the movie itself, a really fitting conclusion to all the Guardians characters. I really enjoyed how they just finished everyone's arc in this. I loved the High Evolutionary, I loved the High Evolutionary, like the actor's performance. I thought his characterization was a little bit weird, as in not really giving him a motive of just, oh yeah, he's trying to do this just because. I just need a little bit more motivation, but otherwise I thought he was a really good villain. The Guardians all had their time to shine. It's just, this movie worked for me on pretty much every level. So, yeah, I would definitely check that out. Next up, we have one of the most boring movies I have seen all year, and that is going to be Hypnotic. This is the Ben Affleck action movie, or like action thriller thingy, where, what's his face? Another well-known actor. I want to say his name's like William Finchner, I believe is the guy. But I've seen him in a lot of things. I know who he is. I just don't know if I said the right name there. Where he is like this expert hypnotist or whatever, and he just like hypnotizes people to go rob places or do things for him. And like, oh, Ben Affleck was secretly one of these people all along, and now they're battling some shit about his daughter going missing. It is so boring, so reminiscent of like 15 other movies you have seen. Like, this is the Spark Notes version of a ton of greater movies. So it was so disappointing that this was what we got with a premise like that. So underwhelming, so boring too. Like, it's supposed to be tense and whatever, but it's just boring. Like, I don't care. It looks like it had a decent budget, but it feels like a direct to DVD type movie. Like, it just, but there were things that worked about it. Like, Ben Affleck was fine in it. Some of the action was okay, but it's just like, what? Yeah, it wasn't very good. Next up, probably one of the bigger releases of the month, and that's going to be Fast X. And I seem to be in the camp of people who enjoyed this movie more than most. Full disclosure, I am not a fan of the Fast and Furious franchise. Hey, I can plug it. My last podcast episode was on the entire Fast and Furious franchise, excluding Fast X, as I had not seen it yet. So if you want my whole thoughts on that franchise, go check out that episode. But Fast X, I really enjoyed it. I mean, yes, it is dumb. It is stupid, but I enjoyed it. Jason Momoa was a great villain. It brought it back down to that level of absurdity that like Fast 5 through 7 had, where, yeah, absurd stuff's going on, but it's buyable absurd stuff, and it's not Space Car, right? So yeah, most people were just like, yeah, this is fine. For me, I was like, hey, I enjoyed it. This is one of the better Fast and the Furious movies, I'd say, as someone who's not a fan of the franchise. Yeah, I had fun with Fast X. One of the more entertaining movies I've seen this year, where it just has fun. There is a pretty big issue with this movie and just the franchise in general, where everyone's just invincible god at this point. We're like the only fictional character that could defeat any of the family's goddamn Dr. Manhattan. But yeah, but yeah. So Fast X, I had a good time with. Next up is this one might be a little bit of a hot take. The Little Mermaid. Yes, the new Little Mermaid. I thought it was fine, right? Um, I know I have seen the original The Little Mermaid a long ass time ago. I did not rewatch it before this live action version. I it, I mean, I was gonna go see this movie anyways. Do I have a particular interest in the story of The Little Mermaid? No, but and I was semi interested to see Melissa McCarthy as Ursula in this movie, and I would say she's my favorite part just because I love Melissa McCarthy and like her brand of humor and like just what she brings. So she was really entertaining in this. Javier Bardem was really good in this. Halle Bailey as Ariel did a really good job, and then whoever our other lead was who played Eric, I do not know his name. He was good. So yeah, like everyone gave good performances and stuff. It's a well-made movie. It's just the story was like pretty predictable of like, oh yeah, I can tell you where this is going. Even though I know I've seen the original Little Mermaid. Don't remember it, but I can tell you exactly where this is going. It's just like and some of the animation stuff was a little weird, like Flounder. Like, what the fuck? That was so awkward, Flounder in that movie. Um, yeah, I mean, I'm 20, so The Little Mermaid is not aimed at my demographic. So, if you're like a 3, 4 year old, you'll probably love this movie. I just happen to be 17 years older than the demographic for this movie, so yeah. It was decent, but I probably won't watch it again. The next movie, we're on to the fifth movie here. Fun fact about these next four movies. uh, I did a quadruple feature one day for these movies. I went to the movie theater at 10 a.m., watched one movie, and then there was like an hour gap between this one and the next one. And then I like actually left the theater, so maybe it's not actually a quadruple feature, but I'm considering it that way because I did it, so I'm right here. But then I like went and got some food and then went back to the movie theater and watched three more movies all in one day. So yeah, a quad feature. Very tiring. My feet hurt after sitting in a theater chair like that, but oh well, I need to hit a really high number this year for new releases, so I will destroy my body to do so. But anyways, yes, the movie, I don't know if I said the title, it's called You Hurt My Feelings. I had absolutely zero idea what this movie was. I was just like, what movies are out that I want to go see? And this one was free for me to go see it, and it had Julia Louis-Dreyfus in it, I believe is her name. Valentina from the MCU as of right now. She was in. I'm like, oh yeah, I know who that is. Sure, I'll go check this out. And I mean, the people give good performances in this movie, but it's just like, it's just like some people going through some midlife crisis shit, right? It's like stuff I don't care about. Like this husband and wife kind of go back and forth and like just have issues because one of them doesn't like the other one's book that they were writing. I'm like, oh yeah, real interesting shit there. And it's like, it's just that for an hour and a half. So it was kind of boring. I mean, people gave good performances, well made, just bored the living fuck out of me. Next up is The Machine, the comedy starring, I can't remember his last name, Bert, and his last name starts with a K. I'm very tired as I'm recording this, by the way. That's why my brain isn't working very well. But anyways, Bert K. Don't remember his last name. But in the movie, his dad is played by Mark Hamill. So that's pretty cool. It's about this guy who's a stand-up comedian that like did this whole bit about the Russian mafia, but oh, it was true. And then apparently he was like partying in Russia in his 20s, stole some watch. Now the mafia comes back to collect the watch, and then he has to go to Russia. and it was pretty funny. The lead actor and Mark Hamill had some pretty good chemistry. They had some pretty funny lines in the movie, so yeah. Um, but it's a pretty simple story. I mean, there's nothing really major going on here. It's just kind of I hesitate to say dumb fun, but kind of just a dumb fun comedy, right? That's just this really weird scenario with really fun leads just riffing and having a lot of fun. So, yeah, I had fun with it. Next up, we have Kandahar, the second Gerard Butler action movie of the year. And this one is about, like, um, a military man, Gerard Butler, instead of an airplane man, Gerard Butler. But yeah, so he's like this military dude, and he like does special missions. But then his identity gets leaked, and he has to get out of a country in the Middle East. I don't remember which one it is. And they have to get to Kandahar, but then they come up with all these different roadblocks of all these different groups of people trying to get him and kill him for like all the things he blew up in the beginning of the movie, because blowing stuff up is bad. Um, and it was fine. Again, a lot of movies this year are just fine, man. I just want some dope ass movies this year, please. Anyways, Kandahar. There was some good action. Kind of predictable story. But yeah, it was fine. I'm not really big on. Oh, excuse me for the yawn. I'm keeping that in. I'm not particularly interested in like war movies. I don't really know if I would consider this a war movie, but there was another movie that came out earlier this year, The Covenant. Yes, with good old Jakey Poo Gyllenhaal. It they're kind of like the same type of thing, right? Where it's like a more modern war type deal. It's just like war movies aren't really my thing, man. So it's just not movies I necessarily gravitate towards. There's only two war movies I like, or like, yeah, like and love, and they are 1917 and Inglourious Bastards, which are like both some of my favorite films of all time. Otherwise, yeah, it's either just like I think a war movie's okay, or it's one of my favorite films ever made, right? No in between. But yeah, Kandahar, decent. And then the last movie I saw in the month of May. Oh, another yawn. See, you can tell how tired I am. I've been awake for like 15 hours as the time of recording this. But last movie of the month of May is going to be about my father, the comedy with Robert De Niro, where and whatever the guy's name, I think his name's Sebastian something, where they are an Italian family, and the son wants to propose to his girlfriend, and his father wants to meet her family, but he's like an old Italian man with all these like Italian stereotypes and stuff. Oh wait, sorry, they're not Italian, they're Sicilian. Is that how you say it? Sicilian? From Sicily? People from Sicily. We're gonna go with Sicilian because it sounds correct and I don't care enough to look it up. But yeah, and so, and like her family is like the total opposite of Robert De Niro, and it is just a lot of situational comedy that it's pretty funny. I had a really good time with this movie. When I saw the trailer, I was like, okay, that's just gonna be decent. But I really, really enjoyed this movie. It makes you feel good at the parts where you gotta feel good. It makes you laugh at the parts where it laughs, and it's genuinely really funny stuff. And yeah, this movie just worked for me. If you saw the trailer and the trailer looked interesting to you, definitely go ahead and check this one out. If you didn't see the trailer, treat yourself to that trailer, then treat yourself to this movie, because it's kind of one of those movies that I feel like is going to float under the radar this year. Not a lot of people are going to see or talk about, And it'll probably end up, if we continue at the rate of movies this year, it'll probably end up being one of my favorites of the year. So I really enjoyed About My Father. Also, I meant to say this when I was talking about Kandahar, but that was like one of the weirdest movie theater experiences of my life. Because about halfway through, I was like just paying attention to the movie, and then I like glanced away from the screen for whatever reason, and then these people just like appeared in the seats in front of me because I was just like in an empty theater. And then and so I just kind of looked down, and there was just a group of like 5 people there. And it was like children, like middle schoolers, right? In this rated R serious action drama thriller thingy about a war going on in the Middle East. And these kids just get up and start screaming at the top of their lungs in the theater. Like in the middle of a shootout where people are dying and stuff, and like a really tense emotional part, they just stand up and start screaming. Like, I know they snuck into that theater like halfway through the movie. I just don't know when they snuck in, but they started to start screaming at the top of their lungs at a really bad part, and then they just stood up and left. It was really weird. I didn't really know how to react. I just kind of sat there and took it as is. But yeah, probably should have mentioned that I was talking about Kandahar, but then it escaped my mind, so that's why I talked about it here. But yes, those are all 8 movies I saw in the month of May. We will do another one of these monthly movie discussion thingy-mabobs on the Le Podcast at the end of June or beginning of July, just kind of however timings work out. But yes, I guess I will tell you guys what next week's podcast episode will be. It is going to be talking about Stephen King adaptations, because we have The Boogeyman coming out this Friday, which is the movie I'm going to review this Friday, actually. I am not going to review Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse because I feel like I will have more interesting things to say about The Boogeyman instead of the Spider-Man movie. So yeah, that is my choice, and I'm going to stick to it because, I don't know, I like reviewing horror movies better than mainstream stuff. Anyways, I think that'll be it for this podcast episode. If you would like, go ahead, check out my Letterboxd. I got a lot of cool lists on there. I recently just watched through all the Insidious movies and the Indiana Jones movies, and I'm working on the Transformers movies right now in lead up to all the new movies in each one of those respective franchises. So if you want to see my thoughts on those, or not thoughts, but my ratings on those and how I rank all those franchises, go ahead and check out my Letterboxd. I have a lot of cool lists on there, or lists that I think are cool. It keeps me entertained. So maybe it will keep you entertained scrolling through there. But yeah, check that out if you would be interested. I think that is it, so time to do the outro. Yes, thank you so much for watching. Have a great rest of your day. Oh, pause.